I'm the nice guy.
Yeah. All right. So you talked about this transition to doing the Girevoy Sport kettlebell method that you took like a duck to water, and none of us, I'm sure, was surprised. But did you find any difficulty in adjusting to the contrasting styles when you were doing the same kind of moves, like, for example, a hardstyle snatch versus an endurance style, sport style snatch, or the jerk?
Well, how I describe it is that it's like driving a stick shift or an automatic, right? You know how to drive a car, and sometimes you get in and you're like, oh, where's the clutch? And there's no clutch, or vice versa. But then you go on your way and you just fall into what you know. So when I first started it, I was so intrigued by this new skill and this new technique that I thought, oh no, how could I ever teach the other again? But it's fairly easy to go back and forth, just like driving a stick shift or an automatic, or a motorcycle or a car. If you know how to do both, you don't necessarily lose the ability to do the other.
But also, she's very talented, and you can't dismiss that because, I mean, I showed her how to swing once. I think I showed her how to do the snatch once, and then she just literally like a duck to water. I never had to show her anything again. She just has an innate feel. Plus, she obsesses about it, which is, you know, you can't overlook that. I mean, she studies it. The type GS board is perfect for her with her specific OCD. So it's the same movement perfected, done a million times with a lot of minute details, and she loves that. So if you don't love that, it's going to be a problem. And she's done so many swings and snatches over the last, 8 years? Something like that?
Oh, yeah, a lot.
Yeah, so it's like, it's already hardwired, you know, so that makes it a little bit easier. But she's talented in this area, other areas as well too, but I mean, she obviously has a knack. I mean, she took the GS sport like crazy, and it's like she's been doing it for 10 years. So you can't discount that either.
But at a certain point, you have to put in the time, right? You have to put in the time.
You always have to put in the time.
They don't hand out rankings.
No,
so,
they sure don't.
You got to earn it.
Absolutely.
And she just snatched. Did you see the video? She snatched the 24.
I did. That's why
that was pure hardstyle.
Actually. This question
it made me feel really bad. I had a really bad workout the day before with the 24, and she comes in here and kills it. It's like, oh, man.
Yeah, I understand that. All right. A riff question for you.
Sure.
When we're talking about the GS style of swings, Valerie Fedorenko says that the one-arm swing is what you're supposed to do. The two-arm is simply not good enough. Why do you think he says that, and what are your comments? Because I do know that you believe in the two-arm swing.
Oh, yeah, of course. You know, the funny thing is, you know, this made up controversy between GS and hardstyle, which, to be honest, and I'll say this to anybody's GS people's face, it all comes from the GS people. The hardstyle people, we had Fedorenko out to the RKC to teach GS in the beginning. I mean, there's no animosity on our side saying that, you know, the GS isn't great. It just is what it is. It's a sport. So I think that, you know, Fedorenko sees everything through a GS lens. So for GS, perhaps, you know, the two-hand swing isn't going to be transferable as much to the one-arm swing. Saying the kettlebell, it's like saying the kettlebell is only made for high reps. It's like, really? Looks like a weight to me. Who decides? It's like saying, you know, barbell is only meant for doing clean and jerks, or only meant for doing, it's a tool. Whatever you do with it is what you do with it. You know, you can use it as a hammer if you want to. It's not saying it's wrong. It's just probably not the most efficient way to use it. But the two-hand swing, what we do with SFG and the approach we take to the techniques is about, you know, GPP, general physical preparation. And the subset of that is, you know, building power, speed, strength, and acceleration. So the two-hand swing, when I first came into kettlebell, I came from powerlifting, and when I saw the two-hand swing, the first thought was like, oh, this is a power good morning. This is the same thing. I've done arch back good mornings for 13 years, and I'm like, oh, this is just like that. I mean, it's the same basic hip hinge, the same arch back, but a dynamic, accelerative, good barbell good morning variation. What I always say is that the two-hand swing is the easiest and the hardest swing of all. It's easiest because it's the most stable, but it's the hardest because when you fatigue, there's nowhere to go. With the one-arm swing, you switch hands. At transfer, you can always switch hands. One side's working, one side's resting. But two-hand swing, you're stuck. Everything's working all the time. So as far as the safest, easiest for people to pick up, I mean, how can you argue against a movement that works so many muscles, develops so much power and strength, and say it's not anything but great? Is it for GS? No. Does it have application to GS? In my opinion, it does. I think that's one of the reasons Tracy's done so well. She had so many hours of strength training, and, GS people do all this adjunct training. I think they'd be better doing, more hardstyle work, but that's just my opinion.
Okay.
But
very interesting.
As far as what kettlebell sport athletes tend to look at everything through the lens of GS, and if it doesn't improve their GS, then it's not useful. I just think it's a ridiculous statement.
Okay.
Yeah, and now that I've been training, I have my GS workouts, and sometimes I go to Juneau and Berkeley and train with them. They're all GS athletes there. Nobody's doing a two-hand swing. I mean, their warm-ups are always one-hand swings, never, ever with two hands. And some of my training partners are now, doing a little bit. And we always warm up with one-hand swings. We have our regular workout. I'm not giving up two-hand swings. Forget it. They're my favorite swing.
Well, if you look back to the origins of GS or the use of the kettlebell in, Soviet and Russian Olympic lifting, they did all kinds of things with the kettlebell. There's pictures of Vasily Alexiev doing two-hand overhead swings for his training as warm-up. I mean, it's just a tool. How you use it and what you do with it will decide what type of results you get. But to make a statement that it's worthless is, well, you got to finish the statement. It may be worthless, which I don't believe for kettlebell sport athletes. But aside from that, it's a silly statement.
Right. I think that's pretty well fleshed out argument, and thank you for that. Let's talk about the snatch that we were just talking about a while back. How do you assess this argument that the snatch is a lift that we are better off, if we believe in the Pareto principle and we just stick to the 20% which is going to deliver the 80%, why don't we eliminate the snatch for most people who are not into, say, a kettlebell certification or into something like a GS? For regular folk, would you say that forget about it?
I do eliminate the snatch for most of my people.
All right.
It's a very high skilled. I mean, it's Pavel called it the czar of the kettlebell lifts, and I think it is. I mean, one of the things that appealed to me so much when I first started doing this was snatch. It reminded me of my gymnastics days, swinging around the high bar. That was the first thing when I first saw the snatch and tried the snatch. It's like, oh, this is just like swinging high bar. But for most people, the requirements for T-spine mobility, shoulder mobility, flexibility, proprioception, awareness of where they are in space, it's a very high-skilled maneuver. Some people, I have, some clients, a 67-year-old woman that snatches a 16 kilo every week, and other clients, I just stay with the swing because, like you said, the payoff for the swing, you're going to get 99% of what you need from the snatch. And in a lot of ways, the swing is harder. It's
sorry, from the swing, you mean?
I'm sorry?
You get 99% of what you want from the swing.
Correct. I mean, when Kenneth J came out with the Max VO2 training, and I said, well, why don't we use the swing instead of the snatch? What his answer was, there's too much muscular tension in the swing.
Yeah.
And I think that's correct. The snatch, especially if you do it well, there's a big flow time where you're really not doing anything. Now, you obviously have other forces at work and other skills at work, but for strength, conditioning, power, efficiency, and safety, most of my clients don't do the snatch because most of them are over 50. And the payoff is, not that high considered the risk. But again, it's on an individual basis. But most of my people do the swing, as opposed to snatch. So I think, you know, it's like if you're gonna do one thing, just swing.
But that presents a problem. Not a problem, but a situation a lot of times for kettlebell instructors, because nothing makes my heart sink more than just having taught somebody how to swing, and the very next question is, what's this snatch thing?
Mm-hmm.
My heart just sinks. I'm like, you haven't earned the snatch yet. Are you kidding me? Like, you know, people want to be entertained. They want the next thing.
I want more coffee.
They think that you know what I'm saying, because you're an instructor yourself, and any instructor listening to this will know exactly what I'm saying. You know, a lot of people say, oh, the snatch is the sexy move. You know, everybody wants to learn how to do it. And I don't blame people for wanting to learn how to do it, and on a lot of other things too. But I think that this, and so many times as instructors, some may feel pushed to introduce other skills to people.
Random acts of variety.
Which is why I love what I do so much. It's like every class, every group that I lead starts out with 30 minutes of swings. And I know how to program those swings. They're all done in a progressive way. And you know what? 30 minutes, that's a workout right there. And there's no other entertainment, right? There's not enough time for entertainment.
There must be music, right? That's enough.
I'm sorry?
There must be music in the background, maybe.
Yes.
Well, yeah, there is. But even without any music, I just came back from Big Sur. I did a class outside, no music. Nobody was complaining.
Well, with her combinations, you have to really concentrate.
You have to concentrate.
So
you have to listen.
Even if the music's playing, nobody's listening to music because they're trying to figure out what combination comes next.
Absolutely. I do perfectly fine without music. Anyways, so we'll just take the next segment right away.